What if the greatest power in the world rested in your hands, yet all you desired was peace within yourself? In the dusty chambers of Rome, where betrayal whispered through marble halls and the cries of war echoed beyond the empire's edge, one man stood alone, fighting not just enemies outside, but demons within. His name was Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher-king, a man born to rule millions, yet who wrote by candlelight about the futility of power, the meaning of suffering, and the discipline of the mind. This is not just a tale of an emperor. It's the story of a man torn between two worlds, the throne and the soul. It's a journey into the heart of Stoicism, into leadership forged not through conquest but through character. And by the end, you'll realize this story isn't just about him. It's about us. Marcus Aurelius was not born with fire in his heart. He was born with thought in his eyes. From a young age, he devoured philosophy, particularly the teachings of Epictetus. While others dreamed of conquest, Marcus dreamed of wisdom. His early life was marked by humility. Born in 121 AD to a noble Roman family, Marcus was not destined for the throne. His father died when Marcus was only 3. Raised by his grandfather and mother, Marcus grew up steeped in the old Roman virtues: duty, restraint, and self-discipline. But fate had its own plan. Emperor Hadrian saw something in the boy, a spark of intelligence, a rare depth of character. He arranged for Marcus to be adopted by Antoninus Pius, his successor, who would then name Marcus as his heir. Adopted by Antoninus, Marcus found a father not of blood, but of spirit. Antoninus taught him that duty was heavier than desire, that Rome came before self. As Marcus grew into adulthood, he immersed himself in rigorous education. He studied under some of the best tutors of the time, including the Stoic philosopher Junius Rusticus, who gave Marcus the works of Epictetus. Marcus didn't just read philosophy, he lived it. He chose simplicity over luxury, introspection over indulgence. By the time Marcus was in his early 30s, he was already co-ruler of the empire. But unlike power-hungry elites who thirsted for titles, Marcus wore the crown like a chain of iron. And with it came unbearable responsibility. Rome, the greatest empire on earth, rested on his shoulders. And it was crumbling. Plague, corruption, rebellion. The gods themselves seemed angry. But Marcus, he remained calm, not because he was unfeeling, but because he had trained his soul to endure. He wrote daily in private journals, not for glory, not for praise, but to survive, to hold on to his sanity in a world that demanded madness. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. Unlike other emperors who ruled from palaces, Marcus ruled from battlefields. The Marcomannic Wars tested the mettle of Rome and the resolve of its emperor. For more than a decade, Marcus led his legions against barbarian invasions from the north. These weren't quick skirmishes. These were grinding, brutal campaigns fought in the snow, mud, and blood along the Danube frontier. He lived among his men in frigid tents. Mud replaced marble. Silence replaced applause. In these brutal winters with frostbitten hands and weary bones, Marcus wrote his meditations. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Even as arrows flew and disease ravaged the camps, Marcus refused to hate his enemies. Stoicism had taught him this, that every soul has its role, that every pain has its purpose. He would walk among the dying, speak with the wounded, listen to the complaints of his soldiers, not with irritation, but with empathy. His men respected him, not just as emperor, but as one of them. He watched friends fall. He watched the empire burn at its edges. He watched the price of power, loneliness. Still, he chose courage, chose discipline, chose duty. There is only one way to happiness, he wrote, and that is to cease worrying about things which are beyond the power of our will. But even philosophy couldn't shield him from tragedy. Marcus lost many children, one by one, some in infancy, others barely into youth. Each loss was a blade to the chest. Each burial etched another scar on his soul. His wife, Faustina, was the love of his life. They had 13 children together. Despite rumors and whispers in the court about her behavior, Marcus never stopped loving her. He defended her in public and mourned her deeply in private. She died during a military campaign, far from Rome, far from the warmth of home. Marcus received the news in silence, and in that silence he wrote, "Do not seek for things to happen the way you want them to. Rather, wish that what happens happen the way it happens. Then you will be happy." He did not collapse. He did not curse the heavens. Instead, he transmuted his pain into wisdom, into calm, into stillness. Every night in the solitude of his tent, he asked himself, "What is in my control, and what is not?" His grief became the forge in which his resilience was shaped. Absolute power corrupts. But Marcus was different. He refused the extravagance of emperors. No parades, no gold-stitched robes. He wore simple clothes. He punished corruption, refused bribes, and debated senators rather than ordering them. The Senate tested his patience. The elite mocked his simplicity. But Marcus stayed the course. He believed that ruling was not a right, it was a burden. But even he was tested. His own son, Commodus, was wild, cruel, and ambitious. Marcus knew this. The empire begged him to choose another heir. But Marcus believed in duty, and perhaps in fate. He hoped philosophy would shape his son. He assigned him the best tutors, gave him lectures, brought him on campaigns. But Commodus remained unpredictable. What we do now echoes in eternity. He chose his son, a decision history would judge as his greatest mistake. But perhaps Marcus saw something we didn't, a belief that each man must write his own fate. In 180 AD, in a foreign land soaked in snow and blood, Marcus Aurelius lay dying. His body was frail, his breath shallow, his soldiers wept. The Senate awaited news in silent dread. The empire trembled. But Marcus? He smiled. He had lived with virtue. He had ruled with restraint. He had loved, lost, and learned. His last words were not of war, not of wealth, but of life itself. The art of living is more like wrestling than dancing. He had wrestled fate, wrestled his own nature, wrestled an empire into peace, and he had done it without ever becoming what he fought against. Marcus Aurelius left behind no monuments of gold, no extravagant tomb, but his writings, his meditations survive. Passed from hand to hand, mind to mind. He did not seek immortality through power, but he found it through wisdom. Today, CEOs, soldiers, presidents, and everyday people read his words, not because he conquered, but because he endured, because he reminded us that even in chaos, a calm mind is the greatest power. His thoughts echo in boardrooms and battlefields, in prisons and classrooms, in the hearts of those who suffer and those who lead. In an age of noise, he offered stillness. In an age of ambition, he offered perspective. In a time of unrest, he showed us what inner peace looks like. He was the last of the 5 good emperors, but perhaps he was the first to understand what truly makes a man good. What can we learn from a man who had everything yet held on to nothing? You too face battles, maybe not with swords, but with bills, stress, loss, and fear. What if, like Marcus, you could look within and find peace? His teachings weren't meant for scholars, they were meant for the everyday warrior. So here's the challenge. Tonight, before you sleep, write down one thing that troubled you today, and one lesson you learned from it. Do this for a week, then read it back. That's how Marcus started. That's how clarity begins. And if this story moved you, If you felt a flicker of fire in your chest, don't let it fade. Hit the subscribe button. Because this channel isn't just about history. It's about becoming something better. More stories of forgotten greatness, of resilience, of truth are coming. Because history doesn't just belong in books, it belongs in our bones. Stay strong, stay grounded, be your own philosopher,